Good day! In an industry defined by service, experience, and constant change, leadership requires more than expertise. It demands vision, adaptability, and the ability to bring people together. Grab your cup of coffee and join us on Freshly Brewed, where meaningful conversations unfold between inspiring leaders and Business Mirror's journalist hosts. In this Women's Month special, we sit down with Loleth So, Group Commercial Director of Megaworld Hotels and Resorts and President of the Hotel Sales and Marketing Association. With more than 3 decades in hospitality, she shares how she built a career in sales and marketing, navigated an evolving industry, and continues to champion collaboration and mentorship with the tourism sector. Joining her in this conversation is Justine Xyrah Garcia, Business Mirror's Macroeconomy reporter. Let's begin!
Good day, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Freshly Brewed. I'm Justine Garcia, Macroeconomy reporter of Business Mirror. This Women's Month, we celebrate the women who are not only breaking barriers, but also shaping industries and opening doors for the next generation. Today, we're joined by one of the leaders helping drive the Philippine hospitality industry forward. Ms. Loleth So, Group Commercial Director of Megaworld Hotels and Resorts and President of the Hotel Sales and Marketing Association, has spent more than 3 decades helping grow the sector while mentoring future leaders along the way. Ms. Lo, thank you for joining us today. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good.
And before we start, I just want to greet you. Happy Women's Month, ma'am.
It's definitely Women's Month for this March. And I'm very happy to be here.
I'm sure our viewers would love to hear more about your journey. So let's start from there.
Sure.
You've spent more than 3 decades in the hospitality industry. How did your journey begin and what made you fall in love in this field?
Okay, that's really a long time, right? I've been in the industry for about more than 3 decades already. But hospitality was never in my roadmap, so to speak. When I graduated from college, I've always been in a family of lawyers, and I actually took pre-law, and I really wanted to become a lawyer, and it's still my dream until now, but that started when I took my pre-law. I was an Octoberian. Okay, I finished my political science October, and then thereafter I had to take a break because it was not yet the time to do the examination for proper law. So my dad said, "You don't get an allowance. Okay, you have to work for the meantime that you're waiting for the proper law exams to come in." So I did. And I got into Intercontinental, which was Punta Baluarte Resort at that time. And I enjoyed it so much. I think being at that, I think I was like 18, 19 years old at that time. And being with people, from all walks of life. And most of all, I was starting to make money, earning, and it was different when you start earning. Then it becomes already. I started loving it, and then on, I started getting to meet people, clients, people from the hotel, the chefs, the front office people, and I just got so amazed with how the interaction was with people, the engagement. And the rest was history. So when the time came wherein my dad said to me, "You need to already take the law exam." And I said, "No, thank you. This is now going to be my game, and this is my path." And I did, and I stayed on, and the rest was history. So that was like 32 years ago. Yes, from the day I started in the industry.
That's really an interesting story,
Long
ma'am,
time.
from law to hospitality.
Yes, it is. But, I still want to be a lawyer. You'll never know, right?
Yeah, it's not too late,
It's
right?
not too late. I agree.
So, looking back at such a long career, there are always moments that, shape a person's path. Can you share some of the experiences or turning points that helped to shape that kind of leadership fluid?
Okay. I think I'd like to think of it as it was a painful growing pain for me, no? Painful. Why? Because there was an experience where at the peak, I think, of my career, no? I was a very young manager, okay, and that was my first time to be a manager. I will not mention anymore which hotel, but I was a very young manager. And to be a manager at that point in time, which was I think about 20 years or 23 years ago, it was something very prestigious. Okay, and it was not easy to become a manager at that point in time. Why? Because there was very few hotels to really choose from. And when I became a manager, obviously it went to my head. Okay, because I was not emotionally ready, and I was also not mature enough, no, in terms of personality, character, and it all went to my head. So I became very, I would say arrogant, okay, to the point that it felt like I was above everyone else, and I forgot that at the end of the day, you really have to have the support of your team members. And I took a great fall from that. And it came to a point where management decided to let me go and said to me that, it's not working out, then you will have to move on. And I spoke to my dad at that point in time because it was a very, very painful experience. You're young, all of a sudden you're taken out of a job and out of a career at that matter. So at that point in time, my dad told me, you really need to start learning how to put your feet on the ground, keep your feet on the ground in spite of how high you are flying. And you need to always think of the people around you because they are there to support you and help you become successful. And that was the turning point for me. So every time that I would get into a management role or a leadership role, I would always think of that, what my dad said. And until this day, it's still in my mind. And that has stuck in my heart and that has stuck in my mind because it helped me become a better leader.
Right. So, is it safe to say that that moment did not discourage you to continue that path? Because if I think some people would, after experiencing that hardship or challenge, they would probably stop, and pursue a
Yes,
different career.
yes,
Why,
yes.
why ma'am? Bakit ikaw? Hindi ganun.
Um, I think because I fell in love with the industry so much, I loved hospitality, I loved hotel, I loved to be where the action was, especially in a hotel scenario where you get to engage a lot with people, you also get to work with the team, and most importantly, you get to see people grow. Um, because you were in their shoes as well before, and then all of a sudden, you see that they're also growing with you. I think that was also one of the reasons why I decided to no, this is just a step
Yeah.
back, but having to move forward, I think also made me realize that it takes a lot for you to accept your fault, accept your failure, and then just pick up the pieces and move on. That obviously makes you also a stronger leader because you know how to accept failure. Because everyone fails. At one point in time, you always fail. But the most important is how you really be able to pick up yourself, pick up the pieces, and just move on and learn from it, learn from the experiences,
That's really
no matter how painful it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
But 3 decades is no small feat, right? So after all these years in the hospitality, what still excites you about the work?
A lot of things excite me about the work. Okay, I'll give you an example. Right now in Megaworld hotels and resorts, there's so much excitement going on. We are a local Filipino chain, and in hospitality, when you are in a local brand and you are fighting with the big chains, it's already a huge challenge. So what makes me really stay, no, it gets me powered up every time I go to work is that knowing that someday, okay, Mega World Hotels and Resorts, we're going to be a big brand, just the same way like a Marriott and an Intercon is, because it doesn't matter whether you're local or international. At the end of the day, it's what your brand speaks about and what message you push across that makes the brand matter a lot. We may not be international, meaning we may not have, hotels yet, and I say yet because you'll never know, right? But at the end of the day, it's the fire within us, the leadership team, that we really want to keep growing as a brand, and that makes me stay in the industry. It's challenges like this that make me want to always think of growing people, growing the brand, and growing our fair market share globally.
Today, you're helping steer one of the country's major hospitality groups as group commercial director of Megaworld Hotels and Resorts. What are your key priorities in leading the commercial direction of the organization?
Okay, being a commercial director is a tough job, I have to tell you. And why? Because the company basically relies on you for all the revenues and for the income, right? And that's our role. That's our major role. But that's not our only role. Our biggest role actually is growing people. And when I say growing people, it's making sure that the culture of the company is really imbibed, not only with me, but also with my people and with my team and with the rest of the community. It matters a lot when we say culture, because culture, I guess, drives people to be happy where they are. In Mega World Hotels and Resorts, we have such a thing called Circle of Happiness. Okay. When I say circle of happiness, it's basically being able to appreciate people around you and being very mindful of those around you. It's not like wherein you cannot be yourself. You can be yourself, but the difference really is being yourself with so much respect for the people around you. And I started growing that in me. And I've been turning 5 years with the company. And I'm not saying that it was easy for me, because coming from international brands, that's not how we normally have it, no? It's a, you fight for your space. That's how it is before. But here in Mega World Hotels and Resorts, we respect so much the people around us that, as being in commercial, we have to drive revenues. Yes, that's our role and that's our job. But in the process of driving revenues, you motivate people rather than push people. There's a big difference. So when you motivate people, basically you respect their boundaries. You also respect their ways. You respect their mindset. You respect their judgments. But to a point that you want to always mentor them, because you want to make sure that they succeed in whatever initiatives that are pushed out. And ultimately, they have to love their job. Same way that I love my job, right? Okay, love my job, hashtag. But what's important is that when you love your job, there's an equal responsibility to it, and that's to drive revenues. But when you start loving your job, no, you have to make sure that you're also able to love the people around you in such a way that instead of you being successful, it's the entire team also being successful. That's what Circle of Happiness is all about for us.
And I think that's really beautiful because nowadays there's this hustle culture, right? So
Yes.
workers are like imbued to just work, work, work,
True,
and
true,
the people around them parang wala nang pakalam sa isa't isa. So I
true,
guess that's
true,
really beautiful.
true, true, true. I agree with you a lot, no? There's nothing wrong. As I said, there's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with driving revenues kasi
Yeah,
trabaho
of
natin yon.
course.
Kaya lang, there are a lot of companies that they forget that
The
the
human
one who
side.
drives revenues are also people.
Yes.
no? And us here in Megaworld, that's why I'm so happy here with this with MHR or Megaworld Hotels and Resorts, because we give value so much to the people and the culture, because that's the core. Whatever the goals are, it may be the toughest goals, but you don't look at it as tough because you're so happy where you are that you don't mind, putting in more effort. Why? Because you're happy where you are and you're happy with your job and you're happy with your company.
Well, of course, the hospitality sector has evolved a lot of over the years, and I'm sure you've witnessed a lot of those, right? So,
Yes.
from your experience, what qualities do you think leaders need today to, keep up with these changes like what you did?
There's a lot of things, okay? As I said, resiliency is one, but I'd like to go beyond that. What's really important, especially now where the market, again, is so volatile, market landscape is just moving, very dynamic movements. I think what's really important for anybody in hospitality is when you are able to populate yourself. What do I mean by that? Me being in the industry for over 3,000 years, okay? I say 3,000, but actually it's only 3 decades. Okay, when I say that, it's because when it's important that we need to make sure that we're able to populate ourselves when we have to be able to mentor people, our people, the young generation, because eventually okay, like myself, we're also going to go. Meaning to say we're going to retire, we're going to have a leisurely life eventually. So we want to make sure that we are able to populate the resources that we have, the human resources. We have so many talents now. We really do. I see so many young generation who are going to be great hoteliers eventually. But they need to have, number one, discipline. Okay? They need to be able to love the hospitality industry more than ever. Why? Because right now, the pandemic really did a lot to the hospitality industry, wherein resources have shrunk. Okay? Because a lot of young people or young generation decided to go elsewhere. And we don't blame them. But that already tests how resilient people are when it comes to the hospitality industry. So it's so important for us to be able to really start mentoring. And I've been doing mentoring for ages. And I would also like to say that I'm also very proud because half of the members of the Hotel Sales and Marketing Association were my sales managers before. And I'm proud, okay? I'm proud to say that because it only shows how great my mentors were also before, that I learned so much from them that I am able to also mentor and shape the careers of the sales and marketing professionals right now in HSMA, and of course in the hospitality industry. So that already tells you how old I am.
No, but that's really beautiful. That passage of knowledge because kapag nahinto kasi yan, there's a risk na
Yes,
maging iba
yes,
yung
yeah,
quality ng
yeah,
industry,
yeah,
right? So
true, agree.
so hopefully when the time comes na the people that you're mentoring right now, they would be able to keep the tradition going,
Correct.
right?
And not only that, no, I'd also like to add that whatever generation you are, you should never ever stop learning. I'm still learning right now, no, because the times that when I started in the industry is just so different already now. So much have changed through the years. And if you're not able to keep up with the trends, no, I'll give you an example. With digitalization now, with distribution resources going on, if you're not able to really learn it, you don't become relevant. And that's, I think, the reason also why people start to get out of the hospitality industry is because they stop learning and they don't want to learn anymore. So when you love the industry like the way I do and the rest of the HSMA board that we have is because we really love the industry. And for us to keep the industry going is to obviously really populate and mentor. Yeah.
And of course, since we're celebrating women and their impact across different industries, as a woman leader in the hospitality, Mamlo, what challenges have you faced and how did you overcome them?
When you say challenges, this is both personally and career. Am I correct?
Yes, of
Okay.
course.
Well, when we say personally and career, I'm a working mom. Okay. And just like I think, 100,000 women across the globe, or even more, working moms, I think, have the most challenges. Why? Because we always have to balance two worlds, and that's being a mom, no, three: mom, wife, and career. And to be able to balance that, I am a living example that it can be married. No, it can be married because you can have a beautiful family life. You can also have a beautiful career at the same time. I would say that in my own scenario, I've learned to compartmentalize, meaning to say, I have learned to be able to keep compartments of my life intact, wherein when I am at work, I am at work, full body and soul, mind, body, and soul at work. When I'm with my daughter and my family, that means I am with them 100% and I focus with them. Of course, there are times na nagsasabayan, no? I'll give you an example. My daughter has a school activity and there's an important meeting that I have to do. That's when I really start thinking na, how will I be able to balance it? And my family has been able to adjust to that, wherein they have learned also to calendar whatever activities they have into my calendar so that I would really block it off on that day, so that it would eventually it's quiet ba in terms of my calendar. So that's the challenge. I think that's the biggest challenge that we have, us as a woman, in this modern day age of hospitality.
But I guess it goes to show that you don't have to choose one,
No,
right?
definitely not. No, definitely not. I have been married to my career, to my husband, to my daughter for the past 30 years. And it's been working just fine.
Amazing.
It can be married. And I've seen a lot of women in same situation as me, who are still in the industry and who are still very much married and who have children who are also very successful. Yeah,
Right.
it can.
It's quite interesting to see more women stepping into leadership roles across the business world because before, being in business equates to being a man. So, from your perspective, how are women helping reshape the hospitality and tourism sector right now?
Okay. In our company, Megaworld Hotels and Resorts, we have a lot of women in our hotel, no? In our hotels, across hotels, and also the corporate office. We have. I'm not saying we don't. We have more men. We have more women. I think what's really important is not really being able to identify, because you're a man, you're stronger, because you're a woman, you're more successful. But rather, I would like to say inclusivity. Meaning to say, it doesn't matter whether you're man, woman, what, and all other genders. What matters is really how you are perceived in your working environment, in your community, and your output, 'di ba? Your productivity, how you relate with people, and how you're able to really get along with people. And most of all, what your contributions are to society. That's what matters the most.
And I agree on that because we don't need to label people just because of they're a
Agree,
man or a
agree,
woman. It's more
agree,
of their work, right? Of
agree,
course.
agree. And I'll just add, because I said this to my husband before. Women have, I would say, are good in some things and bad in some things. Men, same.
Yeah.
Bad in some things, good in some things. And that's why it was always created as man and woman, to be able to really complement each other. And that's the beauty of it, right?
So, ma'am, looking ahead, the tourism and hospitality industry continues to evolve. What trends do you see shaping the future of the Philippine tourism and hospitality industries?
Okay, are we talking about Philippines here?
Yes.
Okay, when we're talking about our own country, okay, um, the Philippines really needs to have more distribution and digitalization progress, no? And when I say that, because if you look at it globally, no, the world has really evolved so much, especially in hospitality, in terms of distribution channels. What do I mean by distribution channels? Distribution really progressed in the Philippines during the time of the pandemic, okay? Because during the pandemic, everybody started to go online. And that's when I think the Philippine market really started to realize that transactions can be done online and can be done on distribution channels. So that's where it really fast-tracked the progress. But I'm not saying we're there already, because if you go out, no, in the global market, they've been there even way before the pandemic. And that's where we should be going. Digitalization and distribution. And I'm very proud to say, I have to say this, with Megaworld Hotels and Resorts, we actually did a partnership with HBX, and they are one of the biggest distribution companies in the world. And they distribute globally, all over the US, American market, European market, Australia, Asia Pacific, Middle East. And we did a tie-up with them last February, and I'm so happy about this partnership because it's going to bring not only Mega World Hotels and Resorts, but also the Philippines into the distribution world outside. And it will give us better connection to all these markets online. And with this partnership, it gives also a leverage, again, not only for Mega World Hotels and Resorts, but also bringing the entire hospitality industry into that direction. The beauty with Mega World Hotels and Resorts is we really believe in destination stewardship. Okay, what does that mean? It only means that you are never going to be able to really promote your hotel or your property if you're not able to promote and help your destination. Before you can even sell your own hotel, you have to always sell first the country. And that's why we are so much supportive of the Department of Tourism, the Tourism Promotions Board, when it comes to initiatives globally, because at the end of the day, we can never keep selling our own hotel because the clients will always say, oh, where is your hotel? Oh, it's in the Philippines. Oh, where is the Philippines again? So that's where I'm coming from. So you need to be able to sell your country. And when you sell your country, you have to love your country.
Right.
I love my country, right? I'm very Filipino. So, and how to be able to do that is you really need to start promoting your own country. And then that's when you start putting in, where your properties are. And that's what we really practice in Mega World Hotels. We believe in destination stewardship.
I guess that kind of thinking is very much different compared to that individualistic mindset that some hotels have, that pushingly aggressive yung hotels, but of course again it must you need to promote the country first.
Yes, definitely. And that's what we're doing in HSMA also. We really promote destination stewardship. Why? Because we are an organization of 180 hotels, right? From all over the country. And we know for a fact that not any of our member will really be able to sell and promote if we don't collaborate with each other to be able to really sell the Philippines as a destination.
So at the end of the day, it's all about cooperation.
Correct, correct. Collaboration.
Yes.
Agree.
And while the industry continues to innovate, one thing people often associate with the Philippines is the warmth of Philippine hospitality.
Correct.
So, how can the industry continue to, innovate while still preserving that authentic Filipino touch?
How can we actually push out that message to everyone? Oh, there are a lot of things that we can do, no? Again, I go back to our company, Megaworld Hotels and Resorts, via the Sampaguita program, okay, which is our national flower. That already is one of the pillars of our company, because with Sampaguita, which is the national flower at that, okay, that already pushes out that message that we are a Filipino brand, that we believe in the Sampaguita, and at the same time that Sampaguita represents the Filipino culture, the hospitality, the warm hospitality, the beautiful beaches that we have, etc., etc. It tells the world that Philippines is just more than a beach. Philippines is just more than a national flower. Philippines is basically a destination which you can really fall in love with. And um, and hospitality is all about the people, the Filipino people.
Ms. Low, in your past interviews, you have frequently spoken about the importance of sharing knowledge with the next generation. Why is mentorship important to you, and what advice would you give young women who want to pursue careers in hospitality or tourism?
Stay in hospitality, because hospitality, I think, is something that is so innate in us. Why is that? Whenever you accept a visitor into your home, you are being hospitable. And that's very Filipino. And isn't it just great when you have a job where you can be naturally hospitable? And that's where we are, the hospitality industry. But, okay, digging deeper, why would you want to go into hospitality? Wherein we have very long hours. We have very long hours at work. We work on holidays. We work on Christmas. We work on New Year. The beauty of that is you are really able to share experiences with the people that you meet. I never considered being on duty on a holiday parang such a drag, you know, you're on duty on a holiday. I never considered it that way. Why? Because I always thought of it that it would give me an experience wherein I can share how it is to work on a holiday. At the same time, it's also an experience where you can see how much they enjoy your company, how much they enjoy your hotel, how much they enjoy the Filipino culture during Christmas season, example. But the advice that I would really give, no, incoming, the fresh graduates, so to speak, who really want to go into hospitality is you really need to love your job. You really need to love your job, because when you start loving your job, everything is just spontaneous, right? Wherein it doesn't anymore it doesn't feel anymore like a job, but rather it feels such a great experience. And I've been going through that journey of experiences for over 30 years, and it's so beautiful.
So it's all about being passionate to what you do, right?
Yes, being passionate, being being passionate, and at the same time being able to really think how lucky you are, because you are being given an opportunity to be with people, to be engaged with people, and most importantly is really being able to show your love for your country. And that's what we are in Mega World Hotels and Resorts. We love the Philippines. We are a local brand, and yet we are here really trying to push out our brand and showing the world how important it is to be Filipino.
And before we wrap up, since we're celebrating Women's Month, and I'm sure a lot of our audiences were really inspired with what you shared today, ma'am. So, what message would you like to share with women who aspire to lead just what you did and make a difference in their chosen fields?
Right. And become leaders also someday, right? Okay. There is something I read this morning, okay, and shared to me by a colleague of mine. And it really hit me, okay, because that's what I have always wanted for every leader to think of, young leader for that matter, okay. Leadership is not about creating your own space, but rather creating space for others to rise. And that speaks of you as a leader. When you are no longer thinking of yourself, but rather thinking of the people around you and the team members that you have. Because you always have to remember that when even one of your team member becomes successful and really shines, no, that is also your achievement, because no one can achieve anything alone. You always have to do it with your team. And this is what I was saying. I go back to HSMA because HSMA is, I would say, an organization where we give opportunities for all the young leaders to shine. In our company, Megaworld Hotels and Resorts, this is one of our pillars. We even created the Next Generation Leadership Council because we believed so much with the next generation becoming leaders. And when I say leaders, as I said, no, you create space for them so that they will also rise eventually. This is what the Next Generation Leaders Council is all about. It's giving them opportunities to be able to really showcase themselves, show their potential, grow with their potential, and at the same time, grow with the company. So again, okay, I speak as someone who has loved the industry for over 3 decades, someone who has grown with the industry as well. Stay with hospitality because this is, I think, an industry where you can showcase your greatest talents of people engagement, at the same time being able to help the country progress through tourism, and eventually you will also be part of that contribution for your own country, for the Philippines.
That's really beautiful. Thank you, Miss Lo. I'm sure madami sa audiences natin ngayon, they're inspired to, take that job in that hospitality.
Yes, you should.
Miss Lo, thank you again for sharing your journey with us today. Your insights are very much a reminder that women continue to break barriers and lead with purpose, even in industries that were once dominated by men. And to our viewers, we hope today's conversation inspires more women to pursue their dreams with confidence, even if it means taking the road less traveled. Once again, I'm Justine Garcia of Business Mirror. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you here again on Freshly Brewed.
And that wraps up today's episode of Freshly Brewed. Thank you for joining us as we explored Loleth So's journey in shaping the hospitality industry through leadership, innovation, and mentorship. Her story reminds us that true leadership is not only about driving growth, it is also about nurturing talent, building strong communities, and helping the next generation rise. For more stories and insights, visit businessmirror.com.ph and follow us on our social media platforms. Stay ahead, know more, and see you next time.